Well, I'm going to start off, we're going to talk about some advancements to Trimble Business Center, and then we'll look at a few, I'll actually open up Business Center, we'll look at a few little snippets of the things we talk about. I'm also going to talk about some of the changes to the Trimble scanning with the addition of the TX5 scanner, Trimble Scene, and the update to Trimble RealWorks, and then we'll go and finish up with a little talk and a demo on the new the Access Sync services. So let's get started. So I'm going to focus more on the latest two releases of Trimble Business Center version 2.8, which was released in October of this year, and then more recently version 2.81, which was released at Dimensions in November. So here are some of the advancements from October 2012 to present day. The latest version is 2.81. As you can see, the release date is the 5th of November, and the entitlement date, what that means is the date your warranty needs to be after in order to run the software is October 1st. So if you want to run version 2.8 or 2.81, your current TBC warranty has to be dated after October 1st, 2012. And as always, if you have an expired warranty, just contact your Frontier salesperson, and they can get you set up there. And if you're running version 2.8, the entitlement date is the same, so you are entitled to run 2.81 as well. There's really only one major difference between 2.8 and 2.81. 2.81 was released because now TBC has full support for Trimble SketchUp import and export. Many of you have probably heard that Trimble had purchased Google SketchUp, so now it is called Trimble SketchUp, and they have now integrated this into TBC. A couple of things you can do is you can export your site design out of TBC, as you can see here, and import it into SketchUp and do your 3D SketchUp designs on top of the site design, as well as you can take your 3D models from SketchUp and import them into TBC and calculate stakeout points. And I'll show you an example of that when we get through this little slideshow here. Some other advancements to TBC 2.8. They've changed the user interface of the software. They've gone to this ribbon style menu, and I'll kind of give you a little tour of that. They've also enhanced some of the GNSS processing to handle some new constellations, as well as some of the new information that we're getting from the Trimble R10s. Along with the addition of the panoramic photos and the Trimble Vision instruments, we can now do terrestrial photogrammetry, which I will give you a sample of. And then some other various additions to corridors, stakeout data, scan data, some enhancements also to the CAD and GIS compatibility. One big thing I want to point out here is the new TBC is ready and supported with Windows 8. That's always a question. We see a lot of computers out there now running Windows 8, so just have confidence in knowing that at the very least you can run TBC on Windows 8, and it should be ready to go for everybody. So the change to the user interface are these ribbon menus, and they're calling it a customer preview, which means when you load the software, you can work in this ribbon menu layout, but you also have the ability to switch back to the classic TBC view. From what I'm being told, eventually this ribbon layout is the way they are going to go with TBC, so I would just suggest to maybe try to force yourself to start using it, because eventually they're going to probably take away the older style. So once you start working with it, I found that I like it a lot more. As you can see, it gives you better access to popular survey features. That kind of has this this tabbed view, similar to, say, a Civil 3D or even a Microsoft Office type ribbon style. Some of the hidden features that were harder to find in the classic view are a little bit easier to find in the new view, a little bit more accessible. Optimized usability, meaning we can customize this quick launch bar and these ribbons to make it contain what we wish to have on there as far as tools. And then lastly, it just gives you a more consistent look with Trimble Access with the icons and the coloring and things like that. Some of the hidden features that were hard to find were the COGO functions. A lot of people didn't know that Access did have full COGO functions. They were kind of hidden in the Create Point pane, as well as some of the CAD features. They've made that a little bit more accessible now. You can see under the Create Point icon, we have all of our COGO functions, and when you hover over these with your mouse, it'll tell you what, bearing, intersection, create point by bearing and distance, things like that. So they will be labeled when you hover over them, and they're just a little bit easier to find to do COGO inside the software. As far as the ribbon menus are concerned, it's still kind of what they would call an evaluation version or a trial version. So in the start page of Business Center, they have this little box here. Click here to tell us what you think of the new interface. So you can click on that. It'll send Trimble an email, and you can send them your comments or suggestions for things you would like to see changed or different, or any questions or concerns. Another small enhancement is a quick toggle for the background color between black and white. If you do anything like I do, where you're projecting up on a screen, a lot of times, depending upon the data, some looks better on the black background, some look better on the white background. So instead of having to go into tools and options, there's now just a quick toggle on the bottom toolbar. Also, the reporting, when you use the non-HTML style reports, when you use the tabbed style reporting, they now have full support to save your reports in the Microsoft Word format. Previously, it was just Excel and a PDF, so now you can save it in Word as well. They also have added some new custom export fields. This was kind of a sore spot with a lot of people when TBC first came out. They have gotten better with every release, and now they have added additional export fields for observation data, precision values, date it was measured, number of satellites, RMS values, things like that, as well as information for stakeout deltas. You can see all these as staked topics here that have subtopics that you can add to your custom exports, as well as network adjustment data. So they're really starting to make this custom export field a lot more flexible for you. All right, so let's talk about some of these other topics as well. The first one I want to talk about is GNSS processing. So the main one, as Steve kind of pointed out earlier, is the full support for the Trimble R10 in terms of the RTK, PPK, exfil, and post-processing data. When you plug the R10 into your computer with the supplied USB cable, it now opens up in the device pane just like your data collector will, and simply allows you to drag and drop your T02 files right into Business Center. So it really streamlines the process, makes it a lot easier. Also handles the HD GNSS post-processing. As Steve talked earlier, the no more float and fix type solution, just precision-based. It's full support of that. You can manage the files in the R10 in terms of deleting them, things like that, through the device pane. And then you will also see in the properties pane to the right of the screen there, it also stores the tilt orientation and information, the exfil observation records with the RTCMH, and it also has full support of the OmniStar differential GPS additional data, as well as the QZSS observations for post-processing. So you can see down here we've got our RTCMH. We also have our solution type RTK, and down on the bottom under device orientation we can see our tilt error. So in this particular instance, this is in meters, but we have 4 millimeters of tilt error, and it also provides you the date that that tilt sensor was calibrated. So it's a little extra of quality control checks right in TBC for you. Also, TBC 281 fully supports multiple core processors. What that means is you can see on the task manager this is an 8-core processor in this computer, and TBC will fully utilize multiple core processors to process many baselines simultaneously when you're doing static processing. It speeds up the process tremendously. Also, full support for NAT83 2011. It has the updated formats for the NGS datasheets and Opus XML data, so there shouldn't be any issues downloading the new format to the datasheets, as well as has the new datum transformation, absolute antenna models, and also full support for Geoid 12A. All right, so terrestrial photogrammetry is a pretty big enhancement. Trimble Vision enabled instruments can now take the panorama photos in the field as well as just the standard single photo of something. And basically the way it works is if you have two different setup points, you can see here there's a setup here and a setup here, and these are just your indicators of where the station views to the right are looking. You find the common point between the two views. You select the common point in each photo, and based on the quality of the angle and the resolution of the photos and things like that, it can produce and calculate a survey quality position for that point without having to go back to the field. So you can technically create points right off the photos with surprisingly high accuracy. Also, you can produce a photo point spreadsheet. When you do your photo points, it's going to give you your point ID, whether the solution is resolved or not, the strength of the solution. So you can see this strength is 0.278. This is just a little geometry graph that we have here saying strong geometry or good geometry is going to be a figure less than 2.6. Weak geometry is going to be a figure greater than 2.6. So it's just going to kind of plot out all of your details for your photogrammetry points that you're creating. And I will give you a sample of this one in a minute here. Also, as I just mentioned previously, the station view indicators. So when you are in the station view looking at the photos, it now gives you this kind of 3D little cone view that shows you the direction you're looking, and then also will get wider or more narrow depending upon the zoom. So it just kind of helps you find your way around and not necessarily get lost in your photos as it was a little easier to do previously. Some enhancements to corridors. The corridor template view is a little bit more enhanced. It's got some more step-by-step type features that makes creating things a little easier. Also, the template labels can now be turned on or off to kind of keep it clean so you can see what you're doing, as well as if you're using the materials manager and you're putting in, say, a material for gravel and putting in the shrinkage and all that type of stuff. If you can now use these materials in when you build your template, and the materials are shaded in the template view, so you can see which aspects of the template have materials applied and which do not. Corridor also now has full support for average end area volumes when you're doing your earthwork computations and reporting for your corridor projects, as well as now full support for the Genio road format. This is kind of I guess I would say a growing thing. A lot of people are switching to this, so just know that you can export a full Genio format road from TBC, as well as now supporting the SDMS export format for both your GNSS points and your total station observations. I know this has been asked for fairly often in the past, so this is now added to TBC. Some enhancements to stakeout and as staked points. So some of you may have noticed in recent releases of TBC, points that you have staked in the field now come in as an as staked point. You can see on the screen here all these little points with these orange flags. The little orange flag indicates that it is an as staked point. In the point properties, you can see the as staked deltas of the points to kind of give you a quick view of how well that point is hit. Also, you can set it up to flag in yellow or red how well your staked out points fit in terms of tolerance, and you can define what those tolerances are. And then you can also create full as staked point reports for roads and whatever else you may like. Some of the issues that first arose with as staked points kind of took people by surprise, and it was kind of a headache to get things figured out, but they've added some enhancements to make life a little bit easier. TBC now fully supports using as staked points for station setups and site calibrations. Previously that wasn't possible and it caused some issues, so you can now use the station setup on an as staked point, as well as the recomputation. You can see it says manual with a little star, and what that means is you can go into the point properties, pick this little icon right here in the point properties, and tell TBC to convert it from an as staked point back to a survey point, recompute your project, and then the coordinates will update. So the main thing to keep in mind is with as staked points, you can't shift them or move them or adjust them. where survey points you can. So if you need to do anything in a situation like that, you can easily convert them through the properties window. There's been some enhancements to scan data in Trimble Business Center. Some enhancements to the VX scan data is it now supports scan point coloring, so you can colorize your scan points differently based on your station that you're scanning from, so it helps you differentiate between the scan files a little easier. You can also adjust the density display and now use the scan data in your selection sets as well. You also can use a 3D walkthrough function where you can bring your TBC, your Trimble VX scan data in, and basically in the 3D view walk right through the scan data and look around and visualize it more in a 3D kind of reality perspective. There's also some more support for different types of point cloud files. You can see that TBC fully supports importing Trimble VX scan files. This kind of new industry standard, the E57 file format that everybody's kind of supporting and going to, as well as some of the common PTS, PTX, and LAS formats. This is bringing data into Business Center. You can also export the E57 format as well as PTS and LAS. The LAS export is kind of a biggie, so they've now added that into Trimble Business Center. A couple of quick enhancements to the CAD functionality. There's more cross-compatibility now between AutoCAD and TBC, meaning you can now, in your feature definition manager, import all of your point symbols and your line styles and layers and color schemes right from an AutoCAD project. By doing that, when you run out your line work on the controller and use your feature codes and also process them in Trimble Business Center, it's using the exact same symbols, line styles, codes and colors and layers that you're using in CAD. So it makes the transition from survey, I should say from the field to AutoCAD a little bit easier. Essentially you can bring it into TBC, process your codes, get all your symbols and line work, export out a DWG, and it comes right into CAD, and everything's the same across the board. It makes life a lot easier. Also, the use of description fields in the controller. We always had the ability to use the description 1 and description 2 box. Previously, we couldn't extract that information without running some sort of special report. Trimble Business Center now has full support for the description fields. You can see here in the point information, you can view and edit the description 1, description 2 fields, as well as in the custom text file CSV type exports. You can now have that as part of your comma delimited export file as well. Also, you have some more enhancements to creating and editing CAD text. You can put in single or multi-line text. There's a text style editor for the height and I believe the type of font and colors and things like that, as well as drawing leaders to point it to specific things in the project. Also have this new smart text annotations. I see this being enhanced more and more as they go, where basically you can create a piece of text and just choose the property right from the list that you want it to display, and based on that property it will automatically populate and label the text on the screen for you, so you don't have to hand enter all that information in. There's also full support for creating circles. Pretty self-explanatory. You can easily create circles for whatever you may need to do. It's more of a CAD drafting feature. As well as the now support for horizontal alignment labels. So you can see just in the image here, you can label horizontal alignments and deliver them to CAD. That was always kind of a biggie that was asked for as well, is how do we label these alignments. So that is now added. A couple features to GIS. The feature Spreadsheet is something new. So based on your feature codes, you can choose the different, I should say different codes or features from your list, see all of the points under that feature as well as all the attributes right in a spreadsheet form. And the other thing I just want to point out is all these spreadsheet forms in TBC easily you can copy the information and paste it right into Microsoft Excel for another kind of seamless export out of the software. The newest TBC also supports Polygon features, so you can draw Polygon type features in your project. You can shade them, hatch them, that type of thing, and then they export out as a shaded feature in your shapefile or something like that for a GIS software. Is there a method to import a shape, region, etc. from AutoCAD as a Trimble polygon? I'm not 100% sure. I would say possibly as a DXF file. If you want me to double check on that, feel free to maybe send me an email, and I might have to do a little checking with Trimble. I'm looking in the question pane. The question was, is there a method to import a shape, region, etc. from AutoCAD as a Trimble polygon? And I am not sure at this moment, but I can find that out for you. All right, moving on. Also, the change to feature code processing. Now you can auto-update feature codes. So you can see in the left image there's a line ran out with this TC1 code. Let's say it was coded incorrectly. You can go through and change all the point codes to flow line, and based on the feature code library, it'll auto-update that line with the proper style and color. Previously, you'd have to go back through and reprocess the codes. Now it auto-updates as you make the changes. Some extra enhancements to exporting out ESRI shapefiles. You have some more settings down here on the bottom you can see as far as unit settings, horizontal and vertical coordinate types, names, layers, feature codes, and also coordinate attributes, as well as importing of Geodatabase XML files. This is similar to the AutoCAD bringing in the symbols and line styles and colors. Now if you have a Geodatabase XML feature file from I believe, ESRI software, you can now import that in and create a feature code library for the survey grade equipment right out of that file. All right, so before we move on to a little demo here with TBC, do we have any other questions? If you have some, I just put them in the question box. I'm going to keep moving on. I'll monitor that as we go. So I'm going to switch gears here to just show you a couple of things in Trimble Business Center. So the first thing I want to just show you is this new ribbon interface. You can see it looks a lot different. We have all of these different tabs. This is how it's set up by default. You have a Home, Data, View, Survey, CAD, and Corridor tab. The icons are nice and large. You can see under Create Point, here's all of your COGO functions that were previously kind of hidden, and it just takes a little time to kind of hunt around and look for these things. Main thing I want to show you is just how you can customize these ribbons to show what you like. Up at the top, you also have this what they call a quick launch bar that have some common commands in here: the undo, redo, new project, save, your project settings, feature definition manager, recompute. That is all up on top here. You can also hit this little pull-down menu here, and you can add in some other features that are kind of pre-listed here. So like open, print. You can see it just populates the little icons in here, and you can kind of customize this toolbar. The other thing we can do in here is right-click over in this ribbon area, and you can do the Customize Quick Access toolbar, and then this allows you to add more icons that are in the software that aren't listed when you hit this pull down. So you can see the Quick Access toolbar. These are all of the icons that are loaded up on top here. And to the left, I have a list of all the icons and commands in the project. And I can just grab, say, planning, for example, and I can hit this little arrow and send it over to here. And then I can grab these things and I can drag them up or down to I think I hit the arrow to up or down to customize the order of where these things are located. So if I do this and hit OK, notice my Quick Launch toolbar has now updated up on top. The other thing you can do is customize the ribbon menu. So on the left-hand side, we have all of our different ribbons right here, our little tabs. And then under each one, we have our commands. So for example, if I just cancel this here and go under Home, I have a data, like a data, I guess you call it a heading, a view heading, and a survey heading. And if I look at customizing my ribbon, I have these same little headings here, or they call them groups, where I can put icons under, or I can also create a new group. I also have the ability to create a new tab up on here, so you can really kind of dig through here and just create, even if you want, a single tab for all the commands and tools that you use, so you don't have to hunt around from ribbon to ribbon. So that's kind of the quick demo of that and how the layout works and how you can customize it. The other thing I want to show real quick is just where to find some of the R10 QC tilt information, just like I showed on that slide. Here we have a series of points that were measured with the R10. I can pick on one of the vectors, right-click, and go to Properties. And notice in my Properties, down on the bottom here, I see my tilt distance. So it looks like I have about 3/100ths of a foot of tilt. It also gives me a distance, I should say. It gives me a tilt in a degrees, minutes, seconds type reading as well, and then also when the calibration date was, and all of your standard other observation data. This information can also be plotted out on a vector spreadsheet. I don't know if it'll show that by default. If you have R10 data, it'll give you a spreadsheet of all of your vector information. In the last column here, you can see all of your different tilt distances for each point. There was a good question in the question box. How do you toggle between the standard view and the ribbon in TBC? Very good question. In TBC, when you are in the ribbon view, you have, I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of hidden on mine, but you have this little, it's like a blue and yellow arrow button. It's the toggle ribbon button. So when I pick that, it's going to change me back to the classic view of the toolbars and the pull down buttons. And then if I want to revert back, you can see right here we have that same little icon. I choose it again, and it's going to toggle me back to the ribbon view. And this is going to be available, I would say, for a while, but like I said, eventually expect this to go away. Let's see. Trying to read my questions here and there. So the question is, if the R10 knows the tilt and pole height, does it adjust the error when it calculates the point? The answer to that is no, and the reason it cannot do that is because there currently isn't a sensor in the R10 that tells it which direction the tilt is, okay? So yeah, it has the E-bubble and things like that, but all it's giving you is an estimated tilt there. There's no indicator as to whether it's north, south, east, or west, so it can't reduce that data to a corrected position. It can just say, okay, there's potentially, 2/100ths of a foot of tilt error in this measurement. There's also a question, how do you retain custom ribbons when updating TBC versions? I will be honest with you, I do not know at this point because I haven't had to do that, but I would be certainly happy. I'm going to write your name down, Dave, to ask that question for you and get back to you. All right, good questions. Let's move on here. So this is the R10 information. The next thing I want to show you is the photogrammetry point. So let me do this. So this is an example of a survey. You can see here we have 2 station setups, and all these orange boxes around each station setup are panorama photos that were taken. You can also see the little 3D cone symbol that's indicating where we're looking and what our zoom level is. And if I go back, I can do a split screen station view, and I have the corner of my building right here and the same corner right here. And basically all I have to do at this point is go to my Survey tab, choose Measure Photo Point, and keep in mind you have to have the advanced license to do so. And I put my point ID in. I can put it on a layer of photo points, a specific layer if I want to. Give it a feature code, and now basically I choose my object location box, and when I scroll in here I get kind of this this little zoom in crosshair view of what I'm looking at. Now these photos are kind of grainy, so it might not produce very good results because we didn't take them at a high resolution setting. The robots, you have an option to adjust the resolution of the image you want to take. So one thing to keep in mind is the higher resolution the image, the better you're going to see the image on the screen in TBC, and the more accurately you can pick your features. So I'm just going to zoom in here and choose the corner of that building. Notice it puts a photo 1. Then I essentially just go to the other side and choose, not a very good photo here, but I choose where I think my corner of my building is, and it calculates the photo 1 here and here, and I hit close, and now I have my photo 1 point. I can also go back into my plan view and notice that it puts those vectors or those baselines from each station to my photo point in as a reddish orange color, so I can see the difference between the two. Now this isn't a very good photo, but I have a DR measurement, and you can go in here and you can do an inverse between these 2 points. And this one looks like it was within 5/100ths of a foot. So for grainy photos and the distance we were at, actually pretty decent results. So I was able to hit that within 5/100ths just using photo points in TBC and picking them off an image. All right, the other one that Stephen mentioned earlier was the georeference image capture and sending it to the TSC3 with access. So here is a project with a georeference background image. First thing you have to do is create a plot box. So I have my plot box that I created here. You can see it in purple. The next thing I do is I just say, I'm under my data tab, I tell it to capture an image. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to set the resolution. Typically with a data collector you probably want to run at about a medium resolution. I tell it I want to capture it from my plot box that I created and hit apply, and now it's capturing the image and creating the associated world file that is needed to go with this. So now if I close this tool, close down all my windows, I have my image here and my world file here. So I take both of these files, I'm going to paste them into my Trimble data folder. Notice you need both the JPG and the JGW. And now in Trimble Access, I can go into General Survey and into my map screen, hit my little up arrow, go to Layers, and you can see my project, or I should say my Dimensions TBC file that I created right here. That's this file right here. When I pick on that and hit Accept, zoom out, and now you can see there's my background image. And as I survey, now this captured the lines I had on the screen as well, but as I survey now, this is georeference, and I can see my points and my line work populate in real time over this image. And then the last quick thing I want to show here for you before we move on is the import of a Google SketchUp model. I'm just going to create a quick new project here. And right, where do I have this thing here? I got to just find my way around here, sorry. So right here I have this SKP file. The SKP file is the Google SketchUp file. So I just drag and drop that into TBC. It's going to run through and load all the information that's part of that file. Some files will take longer than others depending upon the information contained within it. This one's pretty complex, so it'll take just a minute. It's just finalizing things. And essentially what we're going to be able to do with this SketchUp file is we're going to be able to see all the line work and objects created by the model and view it in not only 2D, as you can see here. This is the SketchUp model in 2D, but I can also view the SketchUp model in three-dimensional view as well. Here's the Google SketchUp model that is brought, or I should say Trimble SketchUp model that is brought into Business Center. So you can see all of these things that are modeled by the software come in 3D view, and then also in the plan view I can go to create point, for example, and I can have it use, I can remember how to do this now, create point. I can right click in my northing box here and I can have it use my end snap, and it's just telling me to select a line. I'm going to select that line, hit add, and now it's created a point at the end of that line. So if these models or buildings or whatever are created in Trimble SketchUp, you can import them in, easily select endpoints of lines and things like that to create points that you can then send to the field and stake out. So that is the Trimble SketchUp import into TBC.